This episode will delve into subjects including issues with mental health and forms of psychosis, including hearing voices. If this is a sensitive subject for you, please click away and enjoy one of our many other videos on our channel, Spirit of Power.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Cassidy Merrick, and for this episode of Spirit of Power, we're going to be delving into the subject of how one may reach their peace of mind. Our lovely guest for this evening is going to be Paul Innes and India Rose. Paul has owned and managed his own self-sufficient community and sanctuary for many years. He has professed to travelling in his spirit and has been quadriplegic for over 30 years. This restriction has forced him to contemplate and answer many of life's big questions. India Rose has been in marketing and retail, travelled extensively, and has been a carer for Paul for over 4 months. This episode will focus on a particular technique that Paul has shared with others, which it has worked for, including India Rose. Over to you guys.
So thank you for speaking with me, India, about this sensitive subject.
No worries.
The story goes that when I had my sanctuary on the Tablelands, it was 88 acres and it was self-sufficient, but there was a big cattle property around the outside of it. And there were some squatters living in the area. And one of those squatters was old Jack. Now, Jack wasn't like the other squatters. He didn't steal fruit or steal tools. He had a great camp. He had a big veggie patch. It was well drained. And he used to come over and help the community all the time. One day I was wheeling around up the back in a flat area in the back paddock, just enjoying the day. And Jack seen me and he came over and he said, Paul, I want to ask you a question. I've had bipolar for many years, and when I came here, which was about 5 years prior, I thought that things might change. I went off my medication and I went back on. Went on and off the medication. I tried different meditation techniques. I've isolated myself and nothing seems to have changed. The voices in my head are very loud. It's like a crowd. It's like a party going on. It's hard to deal with. I said, well, I think I do have an idea of something that might help, Jack. Can you find for me your most masculine voice of God? What God would sound like to you, Jack? The most authoritative voice, the most commanding voice that you can find in your masculinity. And can you use that voice in your mind and command silence loudly in your mind? I said, I believe that can help. And he thought about it for a little while and he said, I think that might help, actually. And so he went home, and the next day I seen him from a distance, and I could see from far away he had a big grin. And as he got closer, he was waving his hands in the air, and he told me that it worked. He said that he went home and he prepared himself, that he got everything ready like he normally would to settle down for the night, and that once he was ready, he looked for the voice, his voice, amongst the crowd of voices in his head. And it wasn't easy to find, but eventually he found his own voice and he brought the volume of it up louder, and he looked for the most masculine sound, the most resonating vibration. The voice of God, what God would sound like to him. And he commanded silence. He commanded silence. And they all fell quiet for just a minute. But one by one, they reared their ugly heads again. But this time, he was able to pick them out. He understood, he could hear clearly that each one was somebody or something that he recognized. And he called them out and he shut them up as they spoke, as they yelled, as they laughed, as they screamed. And they fell silent again. But this time he was able to keep on top of them, and it worked for Jack. So I always thought that, that could possibly work for other people. And when I've told this story to India Rose, I believe that she should use her voice of the goddess, which to me should be the opposite. It should be the most subtle voice, the softest, the sweetest, that the goddess commands the universe by her charm, by her love, by her beauty. And India Rose said that that is what worked for her. What voice did you hear, India, in your mind? Can you describe the voice of the goddess for us?
Definitely more soft, because as a woman, I'm trying to bring out the best of me. So like more of a soft, feminine type of voice. And that's just more like a, please give me a break, please give me silence. Give me the break I deserve. And most of the time, they would fall off. And they would come back one by one. And I would tell them again. And every day that you do it, they come less and less and less. And then over time, they're easy to deal with. When I was younger, I could have been when I was about, who knows what, just from when I can remember, I've always had anxiety that I've pushed aside, as a kid. And it was always about like shallow things like vomiting or getting sick. From that age on, I was getting voices in my head, if someone who wasn't, my comfort blanket around, it would be voices. And as I got older, it was like they started to change from like TV ads or people or, from everything. They just became more strong in my mind, and my issues became more strong because my voice wasn't strong enough to shut them down. So I became more weak as I got older because it started so young.
Were there particular voices that you recognized, or?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of it comes from like health, because that was one of my struggles as a kid, was that I was worried about getting sick all the time. It's like hypochondria or something like that. But if I would hear an ad about health, I'd be like, oh, no. And then that voice would keep coming back, and I'd be like, I'd get something weird on me, and I'd be like, what is that, and then that voice would come in and tell me that I had anything, and I would stress about it.
So it wasn't necessarily female voices, it was male voices as well?
Yeah, it could be anyone, female, male, children, anything. They don't care, it could be anyone. You need to grow strong and independent in society, otherwise if you don't have your own voice, society will have your voice for you and you'll crumble.
That is true. If you don't have your own voice, society or religion or your parents or your peers will speak for you. And independence there can't be more said for it.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, India.
That's okay. My pleasure.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind.